Hello, welcome to Cinephile Entertainment. I'm the Cinephile critic, and today I'll be reviewing this film. I was thinking we could be family still. The Intent to The Come Up. So The Intent to The Come Up is directed by Emi Orienrin and Nikki Slimting Walker and stars Adam Deacon as Mustafa, Karen Brimson as Surrogate Walker, Ashley Chin as G Money, Nikki Slimting Walker as Shane, Maria Quatel as Serena, Dylon Duffers as Guns, Cassio Johnson as Daniel, Femi Orienrin as Mitch, and Carl Wilson as Leon, and a bunch of other people that I can't find the names to of what their characters was in here. So The Intent to. Main thing is centered around Surrogate Walker and her business. So she is a drug dealer, also a foster mother who had fostered some black youth, but she kind of turned them into her drug pushers, like running the street. That's kind of what it is. So it's kind of centered around her business. She is the mother pin of this whole operation with drugs. She's Jamaican, her contacts are in Jamaica, her drug supply comes from Jamaica, even though no drugs gets made in Jamaica apart from cannabis. But anyway, that's where her drug supply is. And so I don't know his character's name. I really don't. I think he's a grime artist. Him and G Money were brought up like they were brothers. They've known each other since they were small. Different mums. He wasn't a foster kid Gets character, but G Money was, and he works for the person who fostered him. They're all in this drug business. Everyone here is a bad man. Everyone is basically trying to state their claim, try to be the alpha male. What happens is the story then continues. They go to Jamaica. Now there's different reasons why each of them go to Jamaica. Some of them are to go to try and sort out the supply line. Others, they're on a different mission, not just that. But as this film continues, chaos pursues. There is this fight, this war over control for basically narcotics. It's really cocaine that they're focusing in this film. There's a war between the Turk and there's a war between the British men and, you know, the Jamaican supply lines and everything else. Kind of what this film is. It's about a fight for control for the narcotic space. One thing I will say is the person who plays G Money, he is very good in his role. I feel that he was probably the best actor in this place. It wasn't over the top. It was okay. I mean, he had to be over the top because that's what this film is, but he didn't take it over the over top. He had a cap on it, and that was good. And I felt that he was the best person in this film in terms of acting abilities. Reading him, he kind of kept a lot of things back, and you can never really quite know what he was going to do. And I felt that he played that well. That's basically where the good graces of this film begin and where it ends. Because this film is, my God, this film's bad. There's not really a script for this film. You can tell in the most part that this film was improvised a lot because how much slang goes into one sentence. If this film was written, a lot of those slangs wouldn't be written in the way how they were acting and playing it. Having films like this, yes, you show slang, but you also show restraint as well because you have to be coherent. You have to understand what these people are saying. And so when you have so much slangs in a particular sentence, then what happens is it gets distorted. Not everyone talks that way. It takes time for people to understand. Some things get lost in translation because it's just too much of those slang packed into it. It gets a bit messy at times. I mean, this film could have been better if they had taken just simple steps to actually make a cohesive story. Now, when you unfold that story, you have to have a reason why this story exists. So there has to be a cause, an action, a reflection period, and consequences for those actions. They don't have to be in that order, but it has to be a reason why this film exists. There has to be something why this film is made. What is the actual story? Apart from control, there is nothing else in this film. This film is shot well. I would say that this film is shot well, as in terms of the scenes and the editing is done fairly decently, but the dialogue, character building, arcs, they don't really exist. This film is sort of like a fantasy version of how bad men see themselves. So when you hear those guys that talk about, yeah man, me a bad man with this, me that, and everything else, and they talk and they hype themselves up, this film is like their fantasy version of how they see themselves. Untouchable, no one can touch them, they do what they want, they get away with it, it is what it is. Life doesn't work that way. what happens with this film and why this film is so bad. This film doesn't exist in the real world. There is nothing tying this film to a world that is at least believable. And that is why this film doesn't work on many levels. And I find it weird that this is the type of film these black men want to portray about gangster life, about guns, shootings, cocaine. This is the type of narrative that they want to portray. Even though there is an abundance, there is more types of these types of promotions on black males than there is anything else. And that yet these same men want to come and then complain about the treatment of police officers against them and the way how some people perceive them in the public. And when they get scrutinized, they complain about, you know, certain things. But you are willingly putting this type of narrative that, yes, may first started with a different time era, but these narratives are mostly perpetuated by black males, about black males being bad men and this type of men and all this. You know, these types of stereotypes are the ones that overwhelmingly enter the media and the public gaze. So that's why this type of stereotype is something that just constantly exists. And the other thing as well that they need to understand when they do this particular type of film, these films don't just stay in London. These films go worldwide. So when you are reinforcing these stereotypes, these reinforcements is happening, doesn't matter what country you go to. They're going to be looking at black males suspiciously. You know why? Because black males also hype this type of narrative about black males up. They could do something else, but they choose not to. For example, with Boys in the Hood. Boys in the Hood is a classic. You know why? It did things differently. Boys in the Hood humanized those characters so good, but it's heart-wrenching at the end of it as well, because you have the guy that Ice Cube plays. He's a product of his environment, but also his bad decisions as well. And then you have a father, who is Cooper's character, who's fighting for his son not to go down the same road because he knows what it will lead. In terms of black gangster films, it gives them empathy for the situation that they're in. Whereas this film that justify why certain groups of people are treated in a certain way. The opening scene grabbed my attention. I'm not going to say what it is because I think that if you watch this film, you will understand why I thought that the opening scene was very interesting. The scene that follows directly after that opening scene, that's when I turned off on the film, because this one was actually BS. Because what you have is you have this van in this particular place. The guy comes out, one of the guys come out and said, "I'm here for the food. I'm here to deliver the food." And the other guy's like, "Well, what do you mean? We've already had a delivery like a day ago. Like, it shouldn't have arrived now." He's like, "Oh, well, talk to your boss." So the other guy goes to talk to his boss. And as he's about to walk to talk to his boss, these men come out with guns, shooting up the place. And by the end of this whole situation, about, I'll say 6-7 people die. In the UK, that will be classed as a mass shooting. Now, when we look at another story that happened in real life, the Hatton Garden robbery, no one died in that film. But most of the people that were responsible, guess what happened? They got caught. And that was national and worldwide news. So when you look at the scene that follows the opening scene in this film, where you have about 6 people dying, and the way how they get rid of it is, you know, they get rid of the guns. So as soon as you get rid of the guns, you get rid of everything. No, you don't. Anyway, you have 6 people dying. That's classed as a mass shooting in the UK. You know how rare that is? Yeah, we don't get mass shootings in the UK. The police would have been all over that. I mean, you will have MI5, MI6, all over that. But in this film, there's no consequences, because this is the fantasy versions of what certain bad men think can happen. There's certain type of lifestyle they think can happen to them. There's no connection to reality. The dialogue is mostly improvised. You can tell that because of the way how it say their words. The acting in this film is actually quite poor. There is some type of story, but the story gets let down because there is no reflection. There is no consequences for these characters. The way how they use guns so easily and readily is very interesting. There are better films out there. Like, what made Boys in the Hood so interesting and intriguing when that film came out and still holds up to this day is by the time you understand Ice Cube's character and what he did, and Cooper's character is talking outside of his house and he's got, you know, one of those beers in his hand, it's heart-wrenching because you know that he's on borrowed time. It's only going to be a moment of time before that whole story just catches up with him. There's this end game and it's not pleasant. And so that's what makes this film much more gripping. This film just perpetuates the same things that they're apparently fighting against. There's no really much story. This is really just a hype film. For that, I will rate this film as See Not Evil, Hear Not Evil. There's nothing much to this film. There's other films that does a somewhat decent job. Like Superfly is roughly about this. Definitely does a better job. There's at least stories, consequences, consequences, repercussions, reflection, all of that things in there where this film doesn't have. It's a shame because they obviously had money to film a decent film. It's just the way how they went about doing it. So have you seen this film? What do you think about this film? I haven't seen 1, didn't know 1 existed, but 2 is here. Let's get this conversation started, and thank you for watching my review. If you like what you saw, then please click the subscribe button down at the bottom if you're thinking, I'll wait on this, I want to see more. Then hopefully I will see you again, and remember, until next time, keep safe. Bye.